This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and hallelujah, a flagshipy sort of phone that isn't $1,000 in 2018. I mean, it's just insane, right? And OnePlus has always been about the affordable flagship, or the flagship killer, if you will. Their prices have gone up over the years. We started around $350. Now we're up to $549, which still is about half the price of some of the competing phones that are out there. It's crazy, right? And you're still getting excellent specs here. You're getting a Snapdragon 845 CPU by Qualcomm. That's the fastest CPU available in Android land. You have an Optic AMOLED, that's their fancy name, for a high-resolution AMOLED or OLED display, widescreen aspect ratio, the first in-screen fingerprint scanner in a US marketed phone. Now, the Huawei Mate 20 Pro we reviewed also has that feature, but technically it's not marketed and sold directly in the US other than by importers. We have dual rear cameras. We have a high resolution front camera here, a very nice design, Gorilla Glass 6, and it's available in your choice of glossy black, which they call mirror black, which you can get the base model $549 in, our matte black finish here, which is called Midnight Black, and that one gets bundled with a bit higher RAM, 8 gigs instead of 6 gigs, which is $579, and now the new Thunder Purple, which I just want just so I can say I have a Thunder Purple phone. That one starts at $579 as well. So you've got 6 gigs of RAM in the base model and 128 gigs of storage, which is more generous than what you see in a lot of today's much more expensive flagship phones. You can go up to that 8 gigs of RAM, like I said, still with 128 gigs of storage, or go for 8 gigs and 256 gigs, which is $629. It's a lot of stuff inside. And no notch. We have a little teardrop up top instead. We're going to look at it now. So for you notch haters out there, particularly if you like the Google Pixel 3, 3XL, and that 3XL ultra tall notch right there, well, this one is a nice break from that. You do have a little teardrop kind of thing going on for the front camera, but it's not the big notch that we're accustomed to seeing. It sort of reminds me of the Essential phone, which preceded the notchiness thing that Apple started, which had sort of this little pimple up top. So the screen is mostly unencumbered with oddness sticking down into it, which is a good thing. Speaking of the Pixel 3 XL, which size-wise this 6.4-inch display phone competes with, obviously the Pixel 3 XL is going to cost you a lot more. And one of the things that you count on with the Pixel is fast OS updates, and OnePlus has been getting quite good at that. We have Android 9.0 Pie on this phone, which is the latest, greatest. At this point, we're still seeing other mainstream flagship phones with Android 8.0 Oreo. Samsung, for example, the Galaxy and the Note line, and even the LG V40 that came out after Pi did, well after Pi did, it still ships with Android 8.0. So thumbs up there for that. And we have their Oxygen OS. It's their overlay and their customizations, which are very light, unobtrusive, and generally speaking helpful. I like them a lot. And they don't stand in the way of the speed of the phone. As always, OnePlus phones are some of the fastest Android phones, and they tend not to bog down so much over the months that you own the phone. They do a real good job with that clean OS build and optimization for performance and also for battery life. So what's the bummer here? There's no headphone jack anymore. Well, we can't fight every 2018 unfortunate trend, right? At least you get a little USB-C to 3.5 millimeter adapter in the box. And speaking of in the box, you still get creature comforts, which is nice. You get a little tinted clear TPU case. You get their version of a fast charger, which is 5 volt 4 amp. They don't call it dash charger anymore, but it's still their own special charger if you want fast charging. The usual red signature USB-C cable, and also a factory installed screen protector, which is really on there pretty well. It's not the easiest thing to pull off. Happily, it's a pretty decent looking screen protector. Well, all that sounds like wonderful stuff, doesn't it? So what is it lacking here that the flagships would have that cost more? There's no IP68 water resistant, so you can't shower with your new best friend here. There's no wireless charging, which is too bad. You know, a lot of people do like wireless charging. I like it, but then again, if I'm saving $300 or $500, I can live without that as well. The cameras on this are good. I mean, by most people's standards, everyday people, probably they'd be like, these are awesome cameras. But if you're picky about your cameras, or you're reading all sorts of reviews and you're looking at things like the Pixel 3 family, which still have the best cameras in Android land, and several other competitors, the Samsung Galaxy phones are great. These are not quite as good as that. We'll talk a bit more about the cameras, but they're not horrible, so it's okay. So what does it have that you'd expect to have in a flagship Android phone? Again, that Snapdragon 845 CPU. Lots of RAM and lots of storage, often more than flagships have that cost a lot more. Nice that. It has a widescreen OLED display, but it's not quite as high resolution as what you'll see on the Samsung Galaxy S9 and the Note 9 and the LG V40. But honestly, I'm okay with that. It's still very high resolution, and we're at the point of diminishing returns with resolution here anyway. So the drawback with higher resolution is actually shorter battery life, and goodness, I can't tell the difference. So again, that's something I'm okay with. We're not talking about bleh. We're talking 2340 by 1080 pixels. That's 402 ppi, which is really beyond retina resolution, that term that Apple started. And it supports the DCI-P3 color gamut as well, which is a wide color gamut used for cinematic kind of stuff, filmed, you know. And you have your choice of a couple of different color tunings there, sRGB, adaptive, the usual stuff. Experientially, it's a very nice looking display. I like it. I look at it and I go, that's pleasant, enjoyable. We have 2.5D Gorilla Glass 6. This has to be one of the first phones with Gorilla Glass 6 on board. We have NFC, you have Google Pay support, you have Bluetooth 5.0, the usual dual band Wi-Fi, LTE Cat16, that's gigabit LTE, and again, supports a lot of bands, so compatible with most major US carriers, except for, again, sorry, Sprint, not that. The rear camera even now has optical image stabilization, the main one, OIS, which is something that OnePlus phones used to lack. Speaking of the cameras, we have a 16 megapixel primary main camera, and that's an f1.7 lens on there, OIS, and it's a Sony sensor. You can see the sensor information on screen. So they're still going with Sony sensors. Mostly what they've changed here is the image processor, which has improved. The secondary camera is 20 megapixels. And you can see, like I said, the specs are on the screen there. It does 4K video at 60 frames per second, slow motion video at 240 frames per second at 1080p, which is good. A lot of phones only do it at 720p. HDR, RAW format, dual LED flash, Google Lens support, the usual panorama, different photo modes. So what does that all mean? The camera is pretty darn good. It's very nice. Does it beat the Pixel 3 XL? No, it doesn't. Does it beat the iPhone XS Max for video quality? Because the iPhone's really good when it comes to video quality. Not so much, but honestly, generally speaking, exposure is good. Colors are good on this. I don't have any major complaints with it. The portrait mode is reasonable. It's, you know, that usual kind of has that software interpolated look where it might be a little artificial with that background blurring, but it does the job passably enough. Dark shots with this, not its strong point. Never has been with OnePlus phones. So again, if you're looking for like super duper wonderful night mode, not so much here. The front 16 megapixel camera, well, that's very high resolution. Obviously, it does a good job and it can shoot 1080p video at 30 frames per second too. It's a good enough camera. It doesn't do too much of that beauty effect thing, thank goodness. Performance on this is a OnePlus phone. You know it's going to be among the best. We have fast, low-power DDR4X RAM on board, UFS 2.1, fast 2-lane storage, all these geeky terms. What does it mean? This is a very fast phone. It's fun, it's great for gaming, it handles multitasking well. You've got a good amount of RAM there also to support multitasking. Nobody's going to complain about a OnePlus. It's always the bee's knees when it comes to performance. So how about battery life? Again, OnePlus is usually pretty good with that. They do a good job of optimizing for battery life. And the fact that the screen resolution isn't crazy high does help as well. 3700 milliamp battery is a very large battery. Again, that helps too. And comes with their own charger. Like I said, it's the one that's going to give you the fastest charging if you use that one. You could use other USB-C based chargers if you wanted as well. Battery life is really very good on this. Most flagships, I average about 4, maybe 4.5 hours of screen on time. This one is like 4.5 to 5 hours of actual use time with the screen on. That's very good. It translates easily for most people, I'd say, to a full work day and all the way to the night when you go to bed. Very good. So how about the biometrics thing, right? That in-display fingerprint scanner. I'll tell you one thing. If you're wondering if you're going to find that when the screen is off, before you even turn the phone on and you can do the double tap to wake and all that sort of thing, you'll see that place where there's extra fingerprint oil where you've been pressing it. It's kind of funny. Anyway, it does a kind of illumination thing with the screen when you put your finger on it, and I found that it works well, even in colder temperature when fingers tend to shrink and get more pruny and all that sort of thing. It has worked well for me. Some people say they find the Mate 20 Pros faster. They've been equally as strong for me. It also has facial recognition. It's not the super secure type. It's not the 3D facial thing where you have to do this so it sees your face from all sides when you're training it like the iPhone X family has, and like again the Mate 20 Pro. But it's not something you would want to use like for mobile payment systems and all that kind of thing. But it is very quick, certainly, at recognizing your face, if not the most secure thing. But that fingerprint scanner, definitely a go. So once again, this is one of my favorite phones. I mean, not just because it has in-display fingerprint scanner, woohoo. It's just got a very nice look to it. It feels premium. It feels good in the hand. The materials are very nice on this. The display is lovely on it. The cameras are pretty darn good. And the price is just wonderful. So what are you giving up versus the Pixel 3 XL? Well, obviously with Google's phones, you're going to get Android OS updates the very fastest, and you're going to get the best camera that's available on the market right now among Android phones. And versus the Samsung Galaxy phones, now that depends on you. Some people have gotten used to the Samsung Galaxy software and user interface, which I have to admit, it does do some useful things. Even I enjoy parts of it. So if you like the Samsung experience better, a clean phone like this might not float your boat. The cameras are going to be a little bit better on the Samsung phone still, for sure. But beyond that, you're not getting that curved glass that the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 and the S9 family has. You know, and the wider accessory ecosystem. It could change for OnePlus, but right now, everybody makes cases for Samsungs, for example. And lastly, you're giving up IP68 water resistance and wireless charging. Only you know how important those are to you. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.